In this video, we're going to wrap up our check-in, check-out functionality by allowing our user to check out from anywhere from their profile view. So that's the point of this button right here, right? In the previous videos, we were checking in, checking out from a specific location. Well, again, this button, doesn't matter where they are, we're going to check them out. And that's the user experience I was going for, because maybe they open up the app a couple days later and they're like, oh crap, where was I checked into? They don't remember. It's just kind of like a blanket checkout button. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to implement all that functionality. Let's talk about the UI real quick. The button, we're going to put in an H stack next to our character count view, as you can see here on the design. So that's pretty simple UI, and the button is pretty straightforward as well. So let's go ahead and build that first. So let's go to our profile view. Here we are, and I want to go to our characters remain view, right? And we're going to put this in an H stack to start. And so we'll put that in there. Now, I also want to have a spacer below it because I want I want these to be pushed, to both edges. So it's going to go characters remain view, then a spacer, and then our button. So we'll do button, and then of course, multiple trailing closures, label, and this is where we style it. Now, if I pull up the design, you'll see this button has an SF symbol on the left and words on the right. So that will be a label. So that's what we're going to do, label. And then you can see it takes in a title key, and make sure you pick the system image one because we are using SF symbols. And the title key will be check out, right? There's no checking in here. We're only checking out. And the system image, let's pull up SF symbols, type in map, and we're going to use this map pin and ellipse. So I'm going to click it, right click, copy name, or you can do Command Shift C, whatever you want to do. Go back to Xcode. And I'm going to paste that in there as a string, map pin and ellipse, cool. Now we need to stylize the button. And again, pulling up the design, you can see it's our typical button, kind of squarish, rounded corners, and we're gonna use grub red for the color. So the font we're going to use, normally we've been using, title 2. We're gonna actually hard code this. So do .system size weight design. So the size we want is 12, the weight is semi-bold, the design we can delete, we don't need that. And we'll do .foreground color is .white. We'll do padding of 10. And we'll do frame, just the height. I'm gonna kind of walk through all this when I'm done. I'm just gonna type it out real quick. So frame, I don't care about the width. I'll let that get figured out dynamically. The height though, I do want to be 20. And then the alignment, I'm not worried about either. And then the .background is color, .grub red, right? That's our custom red color. And I did pick grub red, not brand secondary. Remember, those are the same color. But remember, if we ever changed our brand secondary color, I think I still want my checkout buttons to be red, not if we changed our brand secondary to purple, right? So that's why I'm differentiating brand secondary from grub red, because there's some things like I always want to be red no matter what our brand colors are. And then we'll do corner radius of 8. And then now let's run this to see what it looks like on our profile. I guess I could have used the preview there, but I'm so out of the habit of using previews. And that looks too cramped. I think I messed my frame height up of 20. It's 28. That 0, let me go back to that. You see that 0 with a cross through it and the 8, they look alike. So on my reference material, I must have glanced at that and saw that wrong. So it's 28. Play. Again, I could have just used the preview there. Like I said, previews have acted up for me so much. I've just gotten in the habit of not using them. They are improving over time. So I guess I should get in the practice of using them again. But again, I've been dealing with SwiftUI since it first came out in iOS 13, where previews were pretty buggy. So again, this is just the habit I've established. I don't want to portray that that's the way to do it. It's just a bad habit I got to break. But anyway, okay, cool. So our button is showing up as expected. Now, we only want to show this button when the user's checked in somewhere, right? Because if they're not checked in anywhere, I don't want to confuse them and show this. Okay, well, that's a simple conditional. Above the button, we can do if view model, I don't think we have this yet, is checked in. Cool, yep, so we don't have checked in status. This is the same problem we ran into on our location detail view, right? Where on appear on our location detail view, we wanted to fetch the checked in status so we could update our UI accordingly. We're gonna do something very similar. So I'm gonna delete this so Xcode can stop yelling at me. And in fact, I'm gonna go to my location detail view model, this get checked in status. I'm gonna copy and paste this. And before you freak out about not being dry and reusable, I'll explain that in a second. So we'll go to our profile view model, get rid of our bottom console here. Don't need that. Again, at the top, because this is going to be ran on Appear, Command V, get checked in status. Okay, and the main reason I copied and pasted this, because we just did this in the last video, so it should be familiar to you. I walked through this, so I don't want to be repetitive, save a little time here. However, it is different, and this is why I'm not creating a reusable function that can be tweaked a little bit and reused. Because the difference here, I believe, in my opinion, is key. Because you see here, we're doing a lot with a specific location ID that we need from somewhere, but we don't have a location ID here because remember, we don't care about the location in our profile. We're just going to check them out from wherever they are. So the concept of location is irrelevant in this one. So that's a big difference here. And if we did make a reusable one, now we'd have to pass in a location, and then we'd have to do some conditionals to check against the location and then not check against the location. It's just, again, I think in my opinion, this is a case of over optimization, right? I think it's simpler and easier to use by creating two separate similar functions rather than trying to combine them into one reusable one. Just my opinion, but that is why we did that here. So again, we don't need the concept of the location ID, right? Basically just if there is a value at the isCheckedIn property for a reference, any value, I don't care what value it is isCheckedIn will be true. We're checked in somewhere. I don't care where it is, but we're checked in somewhere. And then if there is, well, I don't even have the isCheckedIn variable yet, so I guess we need that. But let me finish explaining this. And then again, if our reference is nil, that's what our if let comes back in this else statement, right? If that's nil, that means isCheckedIn is false. But we don't have isCheckedIn on here quite yet. So under isLoading, we'll do at published var isCheckedIn. It's going to equal false. That's our default value. And then I'm going to hold option, drag up, tab these over, just align these up a bit. Personal preference as always. Cool, so now here's our get checked in status. Oh yeah, see reference was never used because again, I don't care about the reference ID. Just need to know that if it exists or not. So I can use underscore to get rid of that. And then here's another difference. Again, another reason why I made this separate is I don't want to show an alert if I can't get their checked in status. And again, this is a product decision. So before I explain that, I'm just going to break there. We're not going to show an alert. Now here's why, right? Pulling up the design, you see this checkout button. To me, this is a very secondary functionality on the screen. Like say this get checked in status failed. Now I got to pop up an alert. Now the user's confused because maybe they came to their profile to just update their name. And now I'm saying, hey, your checked in status is weird. And they're all confused. I just think that's confusing. And I guess here's the message I want to talk about and kind of making these, again, art of programming type decisions. I think even though it's not working properly and it means the checkout button won't show, I'm fine letting that fail silently and just not having the checkout button there. And it's a choice of, do I bug my user when this isn't working or do I let it fail silently when this checkout functionality is like a secondary aspect of the screen, right? The profile screen's main thing is to, show your profile, update your profile, etc. Being able to check out is just kind of like an added bonus. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm fine letting that fail silently because it doesn't break the screen. It doesn't break something. But again, I will admit that is a very subjective product user experience choice, right? So that's my reasoning. That's why I chose to do that. Again, if you disagree, no big deal. Put an alert there. Simple fix. Okay, so I'm not going to forget this time. Go to profile view. We're going to call the function, right? So on appear, I'm not sure if I do have an on appear. We will, again, got to make this a two-liner. And we will call view model.get checked in status. Again, very similar to what we did on the location detail view. And then now that we have that done, did we already write our conditional? We did not write our conditional. So again, we only want to show the button if is checked in is true. So if view model.is checked in, and then we'll put our button inside the if statement. That way it only appears when that is true. And then here in our button actions, where we're actually going to call the checkout function, but one step at a time. Let's make sure our UI is working properly. So we'll run it. Okay, I can't remember if I'm checked in somewhere. So locations, Chipotle. I am checked into Chipotle. Okay, cool. So let's go to profile. Okay, so I see the checkout button. Now pressing it's not going to do anything. We haven't done anything yet. So let's go back to Chipotle. We will check out. Cool. I am no longer checked into Chipotle. Let's go to profile. And now you see our button is no longer there. One more time, I am checked into Chipotle. Go to profile. Now our checkout button is there. Great, UI is working. Now let's implement the functionality that when we press the checkout button, we actually check out. Okay, so we'll stop running this. And remember, I am checked into Chipotle. We'll remember that. Minimize this bottom console. Let's go to the checkout network call, which will go to the profile view model. And here under get checked in status, I will create a function, func called check out. And now this is going to be very similar to the location detail. So I'm going to go there just to give you the overview, right? So here we're updating check-in status. Remember we have our checked out case. Well, of course, this whole function handles both cases. Essentially, we're going to use this, but only the checked out portion. So we're going to rewrite a whole new function because I'm not going to copy and paste all this because that's too much to like delete and rearrange. Much quicker to just retype this, even though it is going to be very similar. So back to profile view model, we have checkout. So again, how this function is going to work, we got to retrieve the profile, make the is checked in property nil, and then save the profile, right? Same flow we've been using. So I need a profile ID that we have up in our CloudKit manager. But as usual, we have to do guard let profile ID equals CloudKit manager.shared. Again, we're just unwrapping the optional profile record ID. So if this is nil though, before we were returning and failing silently, even though this should never happen, right? Because we're only showing the checkout button if they're checked in somewhere, and they can only be checked in somewhere if they have a profile. So again, this is the case of should never happen, but you never know. However, this time I don't want to fail silently because if this isn't working, they're pressing a button and like nothing's happening. So that is something you definitely want to alert the user for. So we'll come back to that, show alert. Okay, so that's the first step. Now that I have our profile ID, we need to do cloud kit manager.shared.fetch record from the profile ID, hit return, result, switch off the result. This is probably the 99th time we've done this now. Switch off the result, Command B, give me, what did I do here? Oh, I need else. Yep. Too busy talking and explaining. Okay, so now that I have my result down here, in my success case, I need access to the record I got back because we are updating our is checked in property on that record. So again, we're just checking out. So we want to do record, the value at the key of ddg profile.is checked in, and just make it nil. Again, that's how we check out, make it nil. I don't care where you are, make it nil, we're checking you out from everywhere. And then here in that success case, we're going to save the record. So CloudKit manager.shared.save record, and then we're going to pass in the record we just updated, hit return, result. Same old, switch off the results. Command B, give me my stuff. Cool, okay, in the success case, I will do is checked in equals false, right? Because we've checked them out, successfully checked them out, so is checked in is false. What we're gonna need to implicitly capture self, as always. However, this is a UI update, so I need to get this on the main thread. So above the switch, we'll do dispatch q.main.async. Like I said, I'm missing my code snippet here because it makes that a lot quicker. Put the whole switch up in there because the failure, we're also going to show an alert to say alert, our alert item, equals alert context.unable to check in or out, right? Because that's what we failed. We failed to check in or check out when they pressed the button. And I guess if you wanted to be super thorough, you could create a separate alert for checking in and checking out and show that accordingly. Again, got to draw the line somewhere. And we'll do the same thing down here. We'll say alert item equals alert context.unable to check in or out. And again, we're showing that because they're tapping the checkout button and an error happened. So we'll tell them that. Now, this needs to happen on the main thread as well. And I don't want to put this whole switch statement on the main thread because we're also doing a network call in here. And I don't want to put the actual network call in the main thread. I only want to put what we do as a result of the network call in the main thread. So that's why I'm not like wrapping the entire thing there and kind of wrapping them individually. Dispatch queue.main.async, and then, put this in there. And then I guess I could have just done this from the start. That is a one-liner for me. That's how I do things, how I roll. Command B. Oh yeah, we got to implicitly capture self. Or actually here, because there's not like multiple things. So you want to implicitly capture self when you have like multiple items that we don't have to write self.everywhere. But here we only have one. So just doing self.alert item is much better than implicitly capturing self, in my opinion. Okay, so let's clean this up and recap this network call that we just did. Well, let's do our alert item here. We'll say alert item equals alert context.unable to get profile. And again, this should never happen, but just in case it does, we do show them an alert because again, they're pressing a button. We should show them something if it goes wrong. Okay, so I just explained what the first step was. Then we're fetching the record. Well, this is like triple review because we've done this a bunch now. So you fetch the record. If we successfully get the record, we make the is checked in property on the profile nil. That is us checking out no matter where they are. Cool, we've updated that record. Now we got to save it. So here's our convenience API. Save the record. If it's a successful save, make is checked in false because we've checked out. That is going to trigger a UI update. So that's why we're on the main thread. And then we're going to show the button or hide the button based on is checked in. And if we get a failure, we're going to show an alert, unable to check in or out. Again, because they pressed the button, we should show them something if it goes wrong. And same thing for this failure down here. So let me make sure I call this function on the button here. We want to do view model.checkout. Pretty simple. Okay, now let's test it. Run it on the iPhone 12 Pro. Okay, I am checked into Chipotle, right? Let's just verify that. Chipotle, checked in, cool. We're not going to check out from there. I guess I don't have to hit back. That would be a good test. Go to Profile. Cool. I am checked in, so the checkout button showed. Let's tap Checkout. Checked out. It disappears. And again, I'm fine not like showing a successful alert, whatever. I'm fine with it just disappearing. I feel like that tells the user you checked out successfully. If you disagree with that, you could pop up an alert that says you've been checked out successfully. Have them hit OK. That's a product decision. Up to you. So now when I go back to locations, on appear got called. I didn't touch anything. I'm no longer in at Chipotle because I checked out. Let me try checking into a different spot. Little fun fact about Peggy Sue's Diner and Bar, that little image just kind of made me remember it. If you were at WWDC 2019 or saw it, Paul and I did a live Swift Over Coffee podcast that we used to do together. We had a bunch of guest hosts, some well-known people in the community. Fun fact about Peggy Sue's Diner and Bar, this is where we did our pre-meeting for the podcast, where we had those guest hosts come, kind of brief them on what to talk about, kind of outlined what we were going to do. Again, just looking at this picture makes me think of that because we were sitting in those booths talking about it. Little fun fact. Anyway, let me check into Peggy Sue's Diner. Here I am, my button updated. Cool. Go to the profile. Yep, I'm checked in, so now the button shows. Hit checkout. Checkout button disappears. Go back to the locations. I am no longer at Peggy Sue's Diner. Let me double check to make sure I'm not at Chipotle. I like to go there, so I might have snuck in there. Cool. We're not there either. All right, let me check in somewhere real quick before I give my little final goodbye, because I want this button showing up on the screen. There you go. So you see our checkout button on the profile screen is working, and that wraps up the basic check-in, checkout functionality. As you saw, we probably got some refactoring, a little bit of optimization to do. We'll handle that later. We're so close to having all the basic functionality of the app done that I want to focus on getting that done before deviating to the refactor. So onward.